I've been looking at the book of Revelation, at the end of the New Testament, or the end of the Bible. And Revelation chapter 1 has so much in it. So I'm going to begin a little bit further into that chapter, following on from my last video with the address that goes to John, and then it's going on to a whole set of people, a whole set of churches. A whole set of churches are in Asia, Asia Minor, that's in Turkey now. It says this in verse 4, John, to the 7 churches in the province of Asia, grace be to you and peace from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, from the 7 spirits, or sevenfold spirit, before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and ruler of the kings of the earth. It's interesting that it says John to the 7 churches in the province of Asia, because actually there were more than 7 churches in the province of Asia, and some, like Colossae, others are not mentioned actually in the letters which are going to come ahead in the next 2 or 3 chapters. There is Ephesus, which we know there's a book, a letter to the Ephesians within the New Testament. But some of the others are ones which don't have letters sent to them in other parts of the New Testament, places like Thyatira or Philadelphia. And sometimes people wonder why these particular 7 churches and these particular 7 places that I mentioned, what is it about them and what do they represent? And one thing I'd just like to mention here is many people believe that this was a circle of churches where communication could go around in a bit of a circle between these different places in quite a key strategic part of Asia Minor as it was then, and certainly very important in terms of the route of communication so that word could get round. However, of course, John is on Patmos, which is not in any of those 7 towns or cities. And so something has to happen which is quite supernatural to get this message through to him. But it's certainly something that's very important for him to get a grip on and to record, and particularly these key messages. And they're not letters that are written by Paul or Peter or someone else. They're letters written by Jesus. These letters are an unusual type of communication. They come in a very supernatural and powerful way. And there's something, again, as I mentioned before, this sort of sense of gravitas, this sense of importance. Not that Revelation is somehow in a different category to other scripture, but there's clearly a sense of significance to these letters and to the rest of the book, and its importance as not just a bookend at the end of the Bible, but the things that it unpacks seem to be of a very special significance for the reader and for the church and for the Christian. And God really kind of underlines this in an amazing way to us. And it's very important that we take hold of that truth. Over the years and centuries of the Christian church, the book of Revelation hasn't been one that everyone's found easy to deal with. Sometimes people have overemphasized it and become very obsessed by things and reading all sorts of stuff into it that might not be there in some cases, or ignored it, or shied away from it, or rejected it. And even quite famous church leaders at different times throughout church history have actually found it very difficult and couldn't seem to find its place and where it actually fitted with their thinking and their theology. It's quite apocalyptic. It's about the end of the world, the end times. It's of a completely different flavour to many of the other letters that are written by Paul, for example. And so we want to just recognise in this very key time, as we look at the book of Revelation, and in the sense of the many things which are going on in the world, which we need to try and make sense of and understand and at least be prepared for. We want to grasp again the importance of this book. So, Father, I pray today that you would help us to see how important this is. Help us to see this message that comes through, not just to these 7 churches, not just to the time in which it was written, but to us today. And help us to see who you are through it. Help us to hear your voice. Help us to see how important it is for the way in which you communicate to us.